Good morning, YouTube. Yesterday, I was using X-Plane 11 and we flew out of the San Diego International Airport, or KSAN, and we flew around San Diego. We flew underneath an oil rig out in the ocean. Um, Initially, I crashed on the first try, and then the second try, I succeeded. We flew over and around a ship, like maybe a fast frigate or something like that, that was in the area. And then we flew over to Miramar to kind of have a look at Top Gun and the X-Plane 11 fighter jets that were in the pattern. This morning I thought it would be cool to fly back to San Diego International Airport, starting out at Top Gun and having a look at the aircraft here and the airport here within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And then also having a look around the San Diego area, and maybe we can look and see if there's any ships out there, just as we did in X-Plane 11, and just kind of compare the scenery and just have a look at the differences and things of that nature. All right, I'm going to get this Cessna 172 SP with the Garmin or G1000 going here, and then we'll get in the air. Beacon, landing. What does that say? Taxi, nav, and strobe. We'll get the battery on, avionics on. It's just kind of slow there. Okay, we'll set the mixture and the throttle here at 20%. Now it's kind of vibrating there. I'm not sure why it's doing that. That's weird. I can't tell. Well, on my throttle control, I have it at about 20%, but right there it says 0. That's a little misleading. Okay, and we'll pull this up so we can just kind of see the surrounding area. Let's turn the brakes off. Start taxiing. Now, I'm not quite as familiar with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 as I am X-Plane, so you have to bear with me as I'm trying to do things. Like right now, I'm actually trying to, yeah, there we go. I don't know why it didn't do it in the showcase. Check the yaw, the rudders and ailerons, make sure they're all functioning properly. Now let me see if I can get back into the cockpit here, and we'll start taxiing to the runway. I'm not sure if we'll see any fighter jets or anything like that in Microsoft Flight Simulator as we did in X-Plane 11, but we'll do a little bit of a flyover just to have a look around. I'd rather fly over and look around as opposed to taxiing and looking around that way. I did update my graphics drivers this morning, so I'm hoping to get a little bit of a better performance out of the Flight Simulator 2020 than I've gotten before. With that being said, I started out about 4 a.m. and it is now about 5:15, and I've finally gotten to where I can get into the aircraft and do this video. Initially, when I launched Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I was already of the frame of mind it was going to take 10 minutes or so to actually load and get to the point where I could click fly. But then there was also an update, and that took approximately an hour, and it also required, I had to restart my computer. I don't know what happened there. It appeared to crash. It appeared that the Flight Simulator 2020 update didn't complete and crashed. And then I was not able to use the start menu to relaunch Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. The start menu for Windows was not cooperating. So I was able to pull up the task manager, and I issued a command for the computer to reboot. I'm familiar with some Windows commands as I work with computers, and I've had to force restart. I don't like, holding in the power button and shutting a computer down that way. I prefer if I can find an alternate or a software-based method to do it if it's not entirely frozen. to do it that way. So I just did a shutdown space and a /R for restart or reboot. And then once the computer came back up, I was able to relaunch the Microsoft Flight Simulator and complete the update. Now, this is not going to a runway. That is just going to end in the dirt there. So I'm trying to just turn the bird here. I really don't know how to taxi to the runway here, but I should be looking at that multifunction display. It will give me an idea of where I am relative to the runway. So let me focus on that for a minute. I do apologize. I am not entirely familiar with this airport, so I was just kind of heading around in the direction I thought I needed to go, but I was mistaken in that. And what about this? Will that give me there? Yeah, that looks like the runway right there. So yeah, I ran into a little bit of an issue this morning trying to get started. But that happens from time to time, at least from my experience with computers. You have some good luck and sometimes you just don't. In some of my videos, I've noticed that the sounds from the aircraft are overriding things that I'm saying, making it that much more of a challenge to hear while viewing. So I have turned down the audio a little bit for the aircraft so that my voice would override. So it will be interesting to see whether or not any of the aircraft sounds are produced in this video at all or not. Alright, I am going to deploy some flaps. I can't hear them doing anything myself, so I don't know if they did or not. Let me have an external look just to check or verify. Or maybe we could just look out the window. Yeah, they're down. Alright, let's take off. So it looks like Microsoft has added virtual reality capacity now to their flight simulator. I'm rotating. And there was a lot of fixes. It took me a while just to read them all. And once I got to the Boeings and the airliners, the A320, I kind of skipped over those. I didn't look at all the fixes for those because I haven't flown any of those yet. I have only flown the Cessna in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I do enjoy the visuals in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. All right, let's just have a look. I don't really see any fighter jets out there. But this is KN, KX, or Miramar. This is where part of the movie Top Gun was filmed in using some of the F-14s they had there at the time. I have been there years ago in my high school days on a field trip there, and I got to see the Top Gun F-14 that was used in the movie, as well as a couple of the other, like the MiGs, the F-5s, and the A-4s. That was all interesting. I'm going to fly out to sea here. I'll be able to get a better bearing on where I am once I'm at sea, and the KSAN in San Diego will be mostly easily seen. Let me slow the aircraft down a bit. We're going about 100 knots. I'd like to stay around 90 knots. But one thing that's really enjoyable about the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, even though some of the functionality of the G1000, and I'll have to check it because I haven't after the update, but I can check it later. But some of the functionality I was noticing in comparison to X-Plane, it just wasn't there, which made it more of a challenge for me to actually want or desire to choose Microsoft Flight Simulator to fly in as opposed to X-Plane 11. I've gotten to where I really rely on the instruments and do a lot of low visibility flying and the instruments come in handy when you're doing low vis flying. I don't want to imply that I haven't had any luck doing instrument landings with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, but it's been hit or miss for me. Um, so I will test that again later and see how that goes. So I'm heading out towards what looks like a ship or something right now. I'd like to just go see what that is. And let's get an external view here. Oh, okay, the aircraft doesn't bounce around quite as much when you switch to the external view. Let me try showcase. Yeah, before when I'd switch to these views, they would the aircraft would just kind of gain and lose altitude very quickly, as though I had taken my hands off of the yoke, which was not the case. But now it seems more steady. You can just switch views and it stays steady. I like that they've appears they fixed that. You'll have to excuse me. I'm not, like I said, I have in X-Plane 11 I have quick views set up, which makes it very easy for me to switch around and check different views of the aircraft. I'm still learning the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 method. Let's see if this one can pan around. Yeah, that one pans. Okay, good. And we can go all the way around. All right. And then that will bring me back. We're still flying at 100 knots. Let me try slowing it down a little bit. RPMs, let's look what we have those set to. I don't see them. Oh, over here. On the multifunction display. I have it at 2,000 RPMs presently. On the Cessna that doesn't have the G1000, I just use the dial, look at the RPM dial, and confuse myself when I switch back to the G1000 and the RPMs are located on the multifunction display right here. Nice reflections off of the water there. The everything seems smooth. It does seem like some performance issues have improved with this update. We've only been flying for a few minutes, but from having used it before, I'm happy with it right now. It does seem improved. It feels that way. I don't think that Microsoft has added the multifunction display yet, which kind of blows my mind that they've already added VR and then nothing for multifunction display. I think more people out there likely have at least more than one display on their computer and perhaps not a VR headset. Maybe I'm the only one out there that doesn't have a VR headset yet. I do intend to get one at some point. Looking out the left wing there, you can see San Diego. And I think I'm looking at, I can see some of North Island and some of the runway for KSAN. So as you can see, we're not that far away. It shouldn't be a very lengthy flight. I chose to set up the flight with around the same time frame that I was flying around in X-Plane 11 yesterday and the day before, so that we'd have a decent comparison for time of day and clear weather and just what it's like in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 compared to X-Plane 11. The Coronado Bridge is going to be depicted in, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm just going to say FS2020 from here. But in FS2020, Coronado Bridge is going to look more like it does in real life. However, I will not be able to fly under it. It will reset my flight. It considers it a crash when I try to fly underneath it, unless the update has changed that. But I'd rather not give it an attempt. The last time I tried, it reset my flight. And that ship seems further out than... It just seems like it's taking forever to get to that ship. Maybe we will speed it up here. Get some trim. It almost looks like there's two ships. One that is perpendicular with us and the other being parallel, heading straight towards us perhaps. Trying to trim the nose down, but that RPM increase is still nosing it up some. Alright. I don't know if that's a cruise ship or a naval ship. Yeah, I can still see a little bit of the Coronado Bridge over there. It's much taller. Well, I was able to see it better when I panned over. But we'll go over and have a much closer look. Still nosing up. Just trim it down some. I'm actually going to descend some and try to get a little bit of a flyby on that ship or those ships. It's kind of funny that there's two of them there. And as I'm getting closer to it, it looks more like a cruise ship to me than a naval ship. I was kind of hoping to see another naval ship, which is more along the lines of what you would actually find out to see in San Diego. Given that there's so much military stuff in the California area. I mean, you've got the North Island for the Marines and the Navy. You've got Camp Pendleton just a little bit to the north. You've got 29 Palms, which really isn't that far away. And then Edwards Air Force Base, not far from us as well. And there may be more. Those are just the ones that I'm familiar with. Doing about 125 knots, almost at an overspeed. I may decrease the RPMs here some, descend a little more. I think I'll check out this one on the right first, and then the one that's heading towards San Diego, we'll come back around and have a look at it. Looks like two cruise ships, probably nearly identical. Yeah, so now that we've identified it as a cruise ship, we just go by this other one. I do like the water. It's very still and calm. Looks nice. Looks like a helipad on the back there. We do not want to run into that. Wrong way. And there is no replay functionality yet on FS2020, so I will not be able to replay for you. At least I didn't read about it in the updates. Checklist, basic controls, AI control, fuel, navlog, objectives, travel to, VFR, weather, and just custom toolbar. Okay, we can close that. As far as I know, too, for any of those windows, I think you can detach them and move them over to another monitor, and that's kind of cool. I do like that. You can do pretty much the same thing in X-Plane 11. We're only at 500 feet. I'm going to climb a little bit, at least to 1,000 feet. No autopilot today, just hand flying. Look at the windows. Huh. Years ago when I started out with Flight Simulator, I started with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2002, I think it was, and shortly after that, 2004, and then Flight Simulator X. I think it was around the time I was using Flight Simulator X that I started purchasing and using X-Plane 8 and then version 9 when it released. I never did purchase version 10, but I purchased version 11. I do enjoy it. And I can enjoy all the simulators. It doesn't, I mean, I don't like to limit myself to just one, which is why I have the Microsoft version as well as Laminar's X-Plane 11. But of all the simulators that I have flown, I do tend to enjoy X-Plane for some reason, and I'm fairly certain it's mostly due to the flight dynamics and the ability, what I can do with the GPS and instruments in comparison with the Microsoft products. All right, we are at what, 1350? Let's level out here. I'm going to head over to North Island first and then make my way crossways towards, or straight towards, Coronado Bridge from North Island, and then we'll have a look around San Diego City. And then I will ultimately, well, I can land at North Island or I can land at KSAN. But as far as the, I already figured I would land at the San Diego International Airport, so I think I'll just go ahead and land there. Very quiet and peaceful right now. If I were doing this in real life, I think I would just be enjoying myself thoroughly. Now, North Island kind of looks desolate at this point. It just looks like it seems like it was greener and busier in X-Plane 11, but I can almost guarantee this is more accurate depiction of what it is like in real life. I was very surprised that we didn't see any military style aircraft at Top Gun or Miramar Airport. Experienced some turbulence here as I'm descending. So I'm curious to see whether or not there's any military style aircraft here on North Island. We see a bunch of Sikorskys and McDonnell Douglas F4 Phantoms in X-Plane. And everything looks flat. The building's non-existent. No aircraft, but it almost looks like shadows of oil from where aircraft may have been. So in X-Plane 11 we might see some hovering helicopters, or they'll at least be sitting there in the pattern. Various aircraft, but I see nothing here on North Island in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Alright, let's go to the Coronado Bridge. I've been on the Coronado Bridge many times, and this does look more accurate to me than what we would see in X-Plane 11. As you can see, it's very tall. It would be easy to fly under. But again, if I were to attempt it, it will reset my flight, so I will not attempt it. Which is disappointing because it is fun flying under the bridges. And it looks like maybe some ships over there too, so I kind of want to see what's over there on the coast before I fly back towards the airport. Yeah, the bridge has a little bit of a bluish look there on the outside. That is how it is in real life. Some weird graphics things going on there. Truck riding on the rails there. Yeah, and it looks like we got some military ships here. That's kind of cool. I don't think that is being depicted in X-Plane 11 as it is here. That's interesting. Almost looks like they got trees growing on the ships. Okay, I am going to increase my RPMs and gain altitude here. Yeah, that's weird, the trees growing on the ships. That is probably not a real life representation, but it's more along the lines of what you might see as far as the ships being there and what it might look like if you were to go visit today. I wouldn't mind taking a trip out to San Diego myself. It's been years since I've been there. Kind of like to see what the roads look like in comparison to what they look like in X-Plane 11. They look more real. You can actually see actual parking spaces. And these roads look like they're actually connected And whereas the ones in X-Plane, well, maybe those are railroad tracks, and that's why it looks so funny in X-Plane 11. But it looks good here. It's really good. Things look run down as I'm approaching the city. I don't like that. Um, and it doesn't seem as tall either. It seems the city seems a little taller in X-Plane 11. Yeah, those are all railroad tracks, so that explains why it looks like it does in X-Plane 11. But the city looks like it's post-apocalyptic in nature, which that's not how it would look in real life. But there's a stadium there. That's kind of cool. Not really watching where I'm going here. Yeah, I'd like to see what this looks like at night. There's a ball field down there. We'll go by it in a second here. I'm doing a nosedive. There it is. Right there, football. Alright, and I'm just speeding along here. Alright, slowing it down. And we'll come in for a rather hot landing. And deploy some flaps. 500. I got 2 stages of flaps deployed. We're doing what, 86 knots, slowing down some, descending at 1,000 feet per second, 1,000 feet per minute, excuse me. Must be thinking about frames per second. I basically have the throttle at idle. Give it a little more power here. A little more power. I want to make it over the white lines. Alright, now I'm decreasing the throttle power. And touchdown. The pedals are a little touchy. Runway, the airport looks good. I'm impressed with the airport. We'll exit stage left here in a moment. Applying some brakes. Well, that's an ugly green on that aircraft there. And I'm killing the engines right now. Giving it some brakes. Alright, YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed that flight. I'm going to shut everything down. I would do a replay for you, but Microsoft Flight Simulator does not have that capacity built into it yet. I'm sorry. Just turn this warning off. Y'all have a good day.